Everyone has heard of Plato's cave, the shadows, the fire, the prisoners chained, the escape into sunlight. It is taught in schools as a tale of liberation, a story about ignorance and truth, about leaving the illusion of the senses for the light of reason. But what if I told you that this story, the famous cave, is not Plato's most dangerous allegory? What if the real prison is not the cave at all, but the one that no teacher, no philosopher, no priest, no politician ever wants you to see? Because the cave is too optimistic. It suggests that there is a way out, that the brave individual who dares to turn around, to climb, to escape, will eventually find freedom in the light. It comforts the herd to think that truth is attainable, that ignorance can be conquered, that reality is waiting for them if only they dare. But this optimism is the illusion. The prison Plato did not tell you about is not made of shadows and chains. It is made of ideas themselves. Imagine a prison without walls, without guards, without locks. A prison so perfect that its captives not only never try to escape, but love their confinement. This is Plato's real prison, the prison of concepts, categories, words, values, the invisible structures that trap the mind long before the body is chained. In the cave, you could at least break your chains and walk away. In Plato's prison, the chains are inside you. You carry them everywhere, thinking with them, dreaming with them, worshiping them. Consider how thought itself works. When you say justice, love, freedom, you believe you are naming something real. But what are you naming? Nothing you can touch, nothing you can see. These are abstractions, phantoms that live only in the prison of language. Yet people kill for them, die for them, devote entire lives to their pursuit. They never question the walls of their concepts. They never ask, who built these words? Who decided their meaning? Who benefits from me believing in them? This is the true prison, not the shadows but the words we think with. Plato himself hinted at this danger, but he veiled it as philosophers often do. He spoke of forms, eternal ideals of which the world is only a shadow. It sounds noble, almost divine, but once you believe in forms, you are trapped. You believe there is a true justice, a true love, a true good. And so you chase them endlessly, like a prisoner running in circles inside a cage that has no door. The belief in ideals does not free you. It enslaves you to perfection that never arrives. This is why every society builds its own prison of concepts. Democracies tell you that freedom is sacred, even as they control every aspect of your life. Religions tell you salvation is real, even as they demand obedience and tithes. Corporations sell you happiness in the form of products that rot the moment you buy them. The herd lives and dies for words, never noticing that the words are walls. And here is the darkest truth. The more intelligent you are, the deeper the prison digs into you. Fools live in cages of instinct. They want food, sex, shelter, distraction. But thinkers, dreamers, philosophers, they live in cages of concepts. They mistake abstractions for reality. They become the most loyal prisoners of all, defending their chains as if they were wings. The philosopher may laugh at the ignorant man staring at shadows, but he too is staring at illusions. Only his illusions are carved in words. Ask yourself, how many of your decisions are guided by words you did not invent? Success, respect, morality, love. These are not realities. They are chains forged by cultures, religions, economies. You live inside them, defend them, even shame others with them. And when someone questions them, you react with anger, as if they had threatened your very existence. That is the power of Plato's hidden prison. It makes you fight to defend the walls that contain you. The cave was simple: shadows, chains, fire, escape. The prison of concepts is far darker, because there is no exit. You cannot live without words, without categories, without ideas. You cannot simply walk into the sunlight. The sunlight itself is another metaphor, another concept, another chain. There is no outside. The prison is the mind itself. This is why most people are content. They don't want freedom. They want comfort. They want certainty. And concepts give them that. It is easier to live believing in justice than to accept that power decides. It is easier to worship love than to face the raw mechanics of desire. It is easier to pray to God than to confront the abyss of nothingness. The prison comforts, so no one escapes. And so the cave becomes a distraction. Teachers praise it, students memorize it, but it is safe. It makes liberation sound possible. It makes philosophy sound like salvation. But Plato's true prison is not about salvation. It is about captivity. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. So I ask you, what chains do you defend? Which concepts rule your life? Comment below, because naming your chains is the first act of rebellion. Subscribe if you want to keep breaking illusions that most people worship. Like this if you've ever felt the cage closing in. Share it with someone who still believes in freedom as if it were real. Because the cave was only the first illusion. The real prison is the one you love. If Block 1 revealed that Plato's true prison is not the cave of shadows, but the prison of concepts, Block 2 exposes how rulers, priests, politicians, and ideologues have always exploited this prison. They did not build it from scratch. Plato simply revealed the blueprint. But over centuries, elites have decorated its walls, carved new illusions, and chained entire civilizations inside it. Think about religion. It promises salvation, justice, eternal life. Yet none of these things can be seen or touched. They exist only as concepts, invisible and unverifiable. And yet people have fought wars, built cathedrals, sacrificed their children, burned their neighbors alive in pursuit of these phantoms. Religion is the master decorator of Plato's prison. It paints the walls with vivid imagery, heaven, hell, angels, demons, so that the captives forget they are imprisoned. They believe the prison is the path to freedom, and so they worship their chains. Think about politics. Every ruler knows that naked force cannot last forever. Armies are costly. Violence breeds rebellion. But words are cheap, and words enslave willingly. This is why every state builds itself on abstractions: liberty, nation, progress, democracy. None of these can be held in your hand. They are dreams dressed as realities. And yet, people will pay taxes, die in wars, and betray neighbors for them. The clever ruler does not rule by weapons alone. He rules by concepts. He feeds the herd stories about freedom even as he tightens surveillance. He chants justice while he crushes dissent. The herd believes not in the man, but in the words. Think about capitalism. It sells you happiness, success, fulfillment. But look closer. Happiness is a phantom. Success is a moving target. Fulfillment is always delayed. And yet, billions wake every day to chase these illusions, buying, consuming, upgrading, competing. Corporations do not sell products, they sell concepts. You don't buy a car, you buy freedom. You don't buy clothes, you buy identity. You don't buy medicine, you buy hope. And so the herd chains itself, enslaved not by scarcity, but by desire. Even science, which prides itself on reason and clarity, constructs prisons of its own. It builds systems of thought, laws, theories, models, and then treats them as reality. But theories shift, paradigms collapse, yesterday's truth becomes tomorrow's error. And yet, in every age, the herd mistakes the current model for final reality. They mock the past for its mistakes, forgetting that their present will one day be mocked as well. Science is not outside Plato's prison. It is simply a more refined cell. What makes this prison eternal is that it feels voluntary. The chains are not forced on you. You pick them up yourself. You teach them to your children. You correct anyone who questions them. You laugh at heretics and praise the obedient. The herd polices itself, turning the prison into a tradition. This is why rulers love Plato's design. They don't need guards when the prisoners guard each other. And the walls of this prison are reinforced by guilt. Concepts do not merely guide behavior, they judge it. Step outside the lines of justice, and you feel shame. Question morality, and you feel fear. Doubt love, and you feel empty. The prison has wired itself into your emotions. You punish yourself for even imagining escape. What power could be greater than this? A prison where the prisoners are their own jailers. History proves this over and over. Revolutions break kings, burn churches, topple regimes. But they never break the prison. They simply repaint it. The French Revolution abolished monarchy, only to enshrine the people as the new god. The Russian Revolution killed the Tsar, only to worship the party. The digital age mocks religion, only to kneel before the algorithm. The walls shift, the slogans change, but the prison remains. And the irony is bitter. Even philosophers are trapped. Plato built the prison of forms. Kant built the prison of duty. Marx built the prison of class. Nietzsche tried to smash the walls, but even he built the prison of will to power. Every philosophy is another set of chains, another geometry of thought. To think at all is to be imprisoned by concepts. You can never walk outside. At best, you can see the bars. So what does this mean for you? It means that most of what you think is freedom is just a more elaborate cage. Your job title, your political beliefs, your moral values, even your sense of self, they are all inscriptions on the walls of the prison. And when you boast of them, defend them, proclaim them, you are not free. You are decorating your chains. Comment below, which chains do you think are the most powerful? Religion, politics, money, or science? Subscribe if you want to keep exploring how the prison is built block by block. Share this with someone who still believes in freedom as if it were real, and watch how they resist, because the most loyal prisoners are always the angriest when you name the cage. Because the cave was easy to escape, the prison of concepts has no exit. It only has awareness, and awareness is the first rebellion. If the prison of concepts cannot be escaped, then what is left? Submission or mastery? Most people submit. They carry the chains, defend them, love them, die for them. But a few learn to master the prison, not by breaking its walls, which is impossible, but by using its walls as weapons. This is the difference between prey and predator, between herd and ruler. Not who escapes, but who manipulates the prison from the inside. Think of words as tools. The herd uses them like children use toys, carelessly, without power. But rulers use words like blades. They sharpen them, polish them, wield them against minds. When a politician repeats, freedom, he does not mean freedom. He means obedience disguised as freedom. When a preacher repeats salvation, he does not mean salvation. He means control disguised as hope. The herd hears the word and feels comfort. The predator says the word and gains power. The prison remains, but now it is his weapon. It is his. This is why the most dangerous skill in the world is rhetoric. Not mathematics, not science, not philosophy. Rhetoric. The power to shape how others think by reshaping the concepts in their prison. The herd believes rhetoric is persuasion, but in truth, it is domination. Rhetoric is the architect's hand carving the walls. He who controls the meaning of words controls the meaning of life. He does not free prisoners. He rearranges their chains. You can see this in every era. Kings ruled by divine right. Revolutionaries ruled by the will of the people. Corporations rule by the promise of progress. Today, technology companies rule by connection. None of these are realities. They are words, manipulated until they imprison billions. People die for illusions, and the rulers grow fat on their obedience. So how can you resist? Not by rejecting words altogether. That is impossible. You cannot think without them, but you can refuse to be their passive slave. You must become a manipulator of words, not a prisoner of them. Stop asking, what does this word mean? Start asking, who benefits from this word meaning what it does? Stop asking, is this concept true? Start asking, how is this concept used to control me? Take success. The herd believes success is wealth, status, applause. They chase it, envy it, destroy themselves for it. But a manipulator sees success as a leash. Society defines success in a way that keeps the herd running like rats in a maze. But if you redefine it for yourself, not as money, not as fame, but as autonomy, you have loosened one chain. You have not escaped the prison, but you have redrawn the bars. Take morality. The herd believes morality is universal, eternal, sacred. They follow it blindly, guilt chaining them at every step. But a manipulator sees morality as a tool, a language of control. If you learn to speak in moral terms, you can make others obey. You can shame, reward, manipulate. Do you think leaders care about morality itself? No, they care about how morality can be used to bind the herd. If you refuse to take morality at face value, you step closer to power. Take love. The herd believes love is pure, eternal, transcendent. They suffer endlessly when it fails to match their illusions. But a manipulator sees love as biology and story, desire clothed in concept. They know that words like soulmate and forever are chains, not truths. They use them when needed, discard them when not. They do not fall into the prison of love. They use its walls to get what they want. The trick is not to destroy concepts, but to treat them as masks. You wear them when useful, you remove them when dangerous. You manipulate them to climb the prison hierarchy. You never confuse them with reality. The herd worships justice, you redefine it. The herd worships truth, you twist it. The herd worships freedom, you sell it back to them in exchange for obedience. That is how predators thrive inside Plato's prison. And here is the brutal irony. The more you master the prison, the more the herd will worship you. They will call you wise, moral, visionary. They will believe you live for the same concepts they do, when in truth you only use those concepts as chains to bind them. The philosopher who sees the prison clearly does not escape. He becomes its architect. But mastery has a cost. The more you manipulate, the more you risk believing your own masks. Many rulers have fallen because they forgot their concepts were illusions. They started to believe in their own lies, to worship their own myths, to kneel before the very prison they once controlled. The greatest danger is not being trapped. It is forgetting that you are trapped. So what must you do? Cultivate coldness. Always remind yourself that words are weapons, not truths. Use them, but never worship them. Repeat them, but never believe them. Guard your mind against comfort, because comfort is the glue of the prison. The moment you believe the story, you are no longer the architect. You are a prisoner again. Comment below, which word do you think enslaves people the most? Subscribe if you want to learn how to manipulate concepts instead of being manipulated by them. Like if you've ever felt words cutting into your freedom. Share this with someone who still believes in success or love as eternal truths, and watch how they rage when you expose their prison. Because Plato's cave was for children, the real game is Plato's prison. And the only freedom here is the freedom of the predator, to use the walls against the herd. The cave was for amateurs. The prison is for real philosophers. But even this is not the final layer. The final layer is acceptance, not of freedom, not of truth, but of strategy. Once you realize that there is no outside, no pure sunlight, no eternal escape, then the purpose of philosophy itself changes. It is no longer the search for truth. It is the mastery of fiction. This is Plato's real secret, the one too dangerous to teach openly. Truth is not out there waiting. Truth is constructed. Truth is a mask that enough people agree to wear. What the herd calls truth, the predator calls consensus. And consensus is just another word for domination. The crowd does not discover truth. The crowd obeys the truth handed to them. This is why every empire, every religion, every ideology claims to own the truth. Not because they found it, but because they manufactured it. They tell the herd, believe this, obey this, repeat this, and the herd does. Because the herd does not want truth. It wants certainty. Certainty is another name for comfort. Comfort is another name for chains. The prison feeds itself. So what does the philosopher do once he sees this? He abandons the childish dream of escape. He abandons the moral fantasy of liberation. He does not smash the walls, because there are no walls to smash. He learns to paint on them instead. He writes the graffiti of power, carving myths that others will follow. He stops asking what is real and starts asking, what can I make people believe? This is the dark maturity of philosophy, not truth, but control of illusion. Think of the great thinkers. Plato gave us the forms. Augustine gave us sin. Hobbes gave us sovereignty. Marx gave us class struggle. Freud gave us the unconscious. None of these were discoveries. They were prisons. Each thinker built new cells for the mind, and the herd walked into them willingly. That is why they are remembered, not for truth, but for architecture. They built cages so convincing that people still live in them centuries later. If you want to follow their path, stop longing for freedom. Stop whining about chains. Instead, learn to build. Learn to design illusions that others cannot resist. Learn to weaponize concepts, to crystallize phantoms into systems that feel eternal. Learn to make people love their confinement, because if you do not build prisons, you will live in someone else's. This is why history belongs to those who lie well. Not clumsy lies, but deep lies. Lies that feel like truths. Lies that live in words. Lies that nobody dares to question. Call them myths. Call them values. Call them visions. It doesn't matter. They are lies that organize millions. And once organized, millions become pyramids. And pyramids always win. But here is the bitterest irony. Even as you build prisons for others, you cannot escape your own. You too must think in words. You too must believe in concepts. The difference is that you do not worship them. You do not kneel before them. You use them. You ride the illusions like a warhorse, knowing it is an animal, not a god. The herd kneels at the altar. The predator sits on the altar and calls it his throne. So where does that leave you? With a choice. Not freedom. There is none. Not truth. It does not exist. Your only choice is between being a prisoner or a warden, between worshiping concepts or mastering them, between dying for illusions or using them to rule. Most will die as prisoners. A few will rise as architects. The prison will never end, but your role inside it can change. This is the lesson no teacher dares to tell. Plato's allegory of the cave was the friendly version. The real allegory is darker. You are not chained in the dark waiting for sunlight. You are chained in your own mind, staring at words you think are real. And the sunlight you dream of is just another word, another chain, another wall. There is no escape, but there is power inside. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop searching for freedom and start mastering illusion? Comment below if you're willing to abandon the dream of truth. Subscribe if you want to keep learning how to turn words into weapons, like if you've ever felt the walls closing in around your thoughts. Share this with someone who still believes in truth, as if it were solid, and watch how they panic when you tell them it is only another prison bar. Because philosophy is not about escaping prisons, it is about building them. The question is, will you live inside someone else's, or will others live inside yours?